Me.
Chris, what it do? You can call me Jay-Z. Let me just check your sheet.
No problem, sir. Let me just say, I'm a fan of the CBD y'all make. I've been funnel hacking all of your campaigns.
All good. There's a reason that we dominate. Let me start with your background. Where you come from?
Sure, I was born in a TB in Ashland.
After that.
Oh, you talking about my hometown?
Yeah.
I grew up in the streets of the cruise town. Welfare, Section 8 plus food stamp. But I dropped out of school maybe too fast.
Real talk, so you know about struggling.
I would say the school of hard knocks taught me something.
Elaborate.
Well, I never graduated school, dropped out in the 9th grade, but I knew that I had to do whatever I could do to start a business with a few skills I could use.
But the biz you started wasn't all that bumpy.
Yeah, I saw quick all the flaws that be coming when you start a home biz. Without enough cash in the bank or gas in the tank, my company sank.
What a hardship. How you plan to get the business started?
Man, I made restaurant money as a busboy. Funny, but I really wasn't working for the money. I was working for the skills I could use and the habits to remove my excuses.
Look at that. I can see there's something to prove from your past.
Yeah, I guess.
So without enough cash, what made you want to place ads?
Oh my God, it's the best. I'm loving these Facebook interests. Literally, I could target anything. I put an ad in the news feed every single morning. I can wake up and see the engagement. It's juicy. Clicks on a pic really quick. They're converting. I'm earning cash while I'm learning.
Cool. Now here's a hypothetical.
Sure.
On a post and the haters start messing with you.
I wouldn't remove it. Controversy is good for improvement.
What you doing, kid? If you want to do this, gotta stay away from the haters in the comments, Chris.
No, that's my niche. Don't get offended by this, but that's the market y'all missed. That's the interest I'll hit, and that's the heart of my pitch. I'm targeting entrepreneurship.
What do you mean by entrepreneurship?
You know...
So it's a great question. What do we mean by entrepreneurship? So welcome, guys. Firstly, let me start with an apology. And the apology is for the dancing by myself and the lovely Karen, who's going to be the speaker for this evening. You'll never see that again, but it will show you the persuasive skills that Karen has because she managed to get me dancing on camera. Hopefully it hasn't put you off too much. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is John and I'll be your chairperson for the evening. I'm also one of several volunteers with the Asia Institute of Mentoring. And tonight's webinar is part of our United Against COVID-19 series, which consists of 3 main pillars. The first one is crisis management. The second one is career resilience. And the third one is personal well-being. That gives us an opportunity then to introduce our speaker. Now, I've actually had the pleasure of knowing Karen from a personal perspective. And I can honestly say the energy and passion that she brings to business and entrepreneurship is exactly the same as the energy that she brings along with her personal life. I'm not saying that's necessarily a good thing, especially as a friend. This is why I'm volunteering. This is why I'm dancing in front of cameras. This is why I'm chairing the room. So I like to describe Karen as a pocket rocket and a human dynamo all rolled into one neat little package. And Karen believes that her purpose in life has always been and still is to experience life itself. A tireless and rewarding journey to learn, to create and to inspire. So I'd like to welcome Karen. If you can all give your virtual round of applause to Karen, and we'll get on with the main content for the evening.
Thank you, John, very much for your great introduction. There's always a risk when you have your friend introduce you. Okay, so entrepreneurs are not born, they are created. Have you ever dreamed of starting your own business but are too afraid to fail? Anyone? Raise your virtual hand. Don't worry, no one can see you except me. Great, there are a few of you. Thank you. Maybe you believe that you would need relevant experience, lots of cash, or even MBA before you would start. We've been taught that to succeed in anything, we need experience. Otherwise, we will fail. Agree? Yes? Thank you. But I have discovered a new way to win, that it is possible to build a successful business or sell into a new market with no relevant experience. How do I know this? I've done it more than 5 times in my career. I've done it successfully, which is why I'm so passionate about how you can take your shoestring startup and grow into something big. Research tells us that 90% of the startup fail. But instead of being crippled by fear or being in the 90% category, we should seek out the 10% and learn their secrets of success. Today, I will take you through a discovery process on how I turn adversity into opportunity. You will learn how I overcame the various business challenges, 3 startup and scaled up takeaways, and 3 secrets to success, and discover how you can turn fear into power. Who's ready? Great. Most of you are. Perhaps some of you are still looking for the button or multitasking. Okay, before we move into my business success formula, we must discuss the one single most common roadblock: the fear of failure. Let me share with you my dark years and how I fought with the fear of failure. I was born into a converted chicken coop, literally, but no more chickens. They were there. We lived there, but no more chicken. Is converted chicken coop. My mom only told me about this 2 years ago. Life was tough for my parents, who had to move from house to house in the village, renting rooms from mean landlord until I was 3 years old. Look, I had never gone hungry, but life was difficult. And where things became really tough was when opportunity was stolen from me after I failed my primary 3 and 4. I was denied secondary education at age 9. I wasn't smart enough. I just wasn't good enough. Always at the bottom of my class. I felt totally ashamed and a disgrace to my parents. Now, here is my report card. The fail stamp across every page. How would you feel if this was yours? Yes, I was one of those kids that parents would tell their children not to hang out with. Fear of failing at school and at life haunted me every single day. After 8 years of primary education, I was pushed into one path. I had to enter vocational school to pick up skills like welding, electrical wiring, and changing car tires, which was interesting for a while, but I had no real long-term interest. One day, a friend told me about a fully accredited Christian school where I could have a second chance at secondary. So there I was, at the ripe old age of 17. I started secondary 1. And here's the turning point. At Sunny Adventist School, I learned how to learn in a way I learned best. The teachers were nurturing and compassionate. They didn't define us by our end score. They didn't just teach us basic education, but they taught us how to be a better human being. And I discovered something about myself. I discovered that I love learning, and I had an ironclad determination to prove the system wrong. I wasn't that hopeless kid with no future. I refused to be defined by an exam score. Finally, 4 years later, I achieved 6 O-levels. Yes, I know I was 4 years behind everyone else, but I did it. And I enrolled myself into a 4-year business degree at SAOC. Learning became a pleasure, even though I was still not good at scoring an exam. And in fact, I had an epiphany, an aha moment, and that was it. Education for living and not education for making a living. The good thing about being a failure early in life means that I was starting at the lowest point. It could only get better. So the valuable lesson was turning the fear of learning into the quest of knowledge. Not to fight fear, but to embrace it and be one with it. That became my true north. Courage is not the fear, it's not the absence of fear, but the mastery of fear. With this new mindset, I started my business. So at the age of 30, after a few years of working, I decided to start my own biotech recruitment business with no biotech experience, no recruitment experience, not much cash, not even a degree, never mind MBA or a PhD. But what I did have was a learning disability called dyslexia, which I only found out 2 years ago. So with $10,000, which was equivalent to about 4 months worth of personal living expenses in Singapore, a donated computer and a second-hand printer and a phone in my parents' HDB flat, I became an entrepreneur. But before you start congratulating me, let me take you through my challenges and mistake made. After 6 months, it was clear that my great first mover idea wasn't that great after all. I started during the dot-com bubble burst in 2001. GDP was minus 1.1%. Singapore was in a recession. Companies downsizing, no one's hiring. Life sciences was virtually a non-existent industry in Asia. No clients, no candidates. I felt like giving up. I failed my 6-month break-even plan. I went for months without paychecks and the same overwhelming fear of failure from my school days all over again. I even slept in my sleeping bag under my desk at a co-working place because I couldn't afford midnight taxi surcharge. Lucky for me, I love camping. Finally, survived. After 6 months, I had my first few placements, and within the first 3 years, we won international projects with MNC headquarter in US and UK, including large-scale retained projects with only a team of 4. The key lessons I make it through the tough startup stage were: in survival mode, I had to learn why my idea didn't work. And very quickly, I shifted to focusing on pharma industry, where I learned there were more clients and more candidates compared to biotech. And secondary, I keep innovating and transforming without relying on my past knowledge. I was determined to redefine best practices and create the ultimate customer experience. Third was mental support. I was physically exhausted and mentally jaded. Who knows what I'm saying? Thank you. So I asked my friend Dom, who knew nothing about my business, to pretend to be my boss in our weekly meeting and hold me accountable. Note that all this time, my old friend Fear never abandoned me. And so I used the energy that fear of failure creates to push me forward. After 6 to 7 years, a mentor told me, it is more risky to stay small than to grow big. So I started to expand my operation. Believe me, scaling up was like starting up all over again. Lots of learning curves and mistake made. On top of being hit by the global financial crisis in 2009, during our scale-up stage, GDP was at 0.1%. We made tons of near-fatal business mistakes with 6-figure sum going down the drain. We hired 15 consultants, only one was left after 6 months. Wrong hire, poor performance. With escalating overheads, fierce competition, high staff turnover, and unfavorable economy, it was an extremely stressful time. The recruitment and headhunting landscape was also shifting dramatically. New approaches and methodologies were needed. But one day, I realized that my business was not about recruitment, but about people and training. So instead of creating more breakthrough clients' experiences, I turned my focus inwards on people development and training, and putting people first as our building block for success. So We created People First Always as one of the company core values and developed 10 guiding principles around it. We put in place inspiring performance measurements, award and recognitions, and effective bootcamp. We developed a center of excellence and quality control. The results? Manpower double, revenue triple. We won over 20 awards and ranked the second largest local recruitment companies by revenue. Through my incredible journey, I discover mentoring and yes, learning is an integral part of my success. From my perspective, scaling a business is not the most challenging, but scaling up a business is not the most challenging part of being an entrepreneur. But starting isn't, scaling is. Through my and though we had enough cash for expansion, I realized I didn't have the know-how. At the end, a successful business acquaintance mentored me and offered me I offered him a 25% of the company. He gave me the so-called coffee shop MBA classes on Sunday, 7 a.m. that took the business from good to great. So one quick piece of advice. If you don't have a mentor who knows it all, find one in each area. Or go to AIM, of course. AIM has a 3 months one-to-one mentoring program to support the community affected by the pandemic. They have intake every month from June to December. Some product placement for AIM here. Okay, so here are 3 startup tips. During ideation, empty your knowledge. Instead of asking, what skills do I have? You ask, what is the immediate problem you're trying to solve? How much are people willing to pay for it? And how many people out there are willing to pay for it? Look, I'm not saying that you should jump into a business with no experience and expect to succeed. Of course, knowledge and experience are important consideration, but by putting aside experience, you will be less constrained by your limited knowledge. Once you have some ideas, consider how you're going to acquire the skill and the money to start. For example, my biotech recruitment idea, I had 3 criteria. It has to be a sunrise industry, has a positive influence on people, and scalable beyond me. Out of the 4 key growth industry pillars that the government announced 20 years ago, I picked biotech. Then I consider what services I should provide for the biotech industry and narrowed down to recruitment because I enjoy connecting people. Now you know that I didn't exactly pick the best startup idea, nor the best timing. Remember, ideas are cheap. It is how you pivot at every stage that makes a difference. Starting a business in a good economy is hard enough, but now we are in a serious global recession, possibly depression. Many people will be out of jobs and remain so for the next 6 months to a year or even 2 years. There will be less disposable income, so you have to consider very carefully. The risk? Customer lack of budget, investor not investing. It takes longer to establish a brand, delay speed to market and speed to revenue. But if your business involves product development for the next 2 years, this could be a good time. Low operation costs and more available talent. Otherwise, ask what kind of business idea are more suitable for current market behavior in this recession. Can your business ideas save company money or increase their revenue? Another important question to ask is, are you starting a business for survival income or to fulfill a dream? If it is for survival income, then you should have at least 8 months worth of personal expenses set aside. Note that being self-employed or freelancing versus being a business owner is very different. Freelancing for a few months while you wait for economy to pick up is not exactly a bad idea either. Having said that, many great businesses have emerged from within a recession. Now, I'd like you to consider the idea of conscious capitalism by John Mackey and Raj Sisodia. It refers to socially responsible economics, which our 10 people first always guiding principle aspire to align with. Profitability is important, but it is equal to the long-term well-being of humanity and the planet. Entrepreneurs today are leading their companies with passion, purpose, and conviction, and still increase profitability. In fact, a 2013 Harvard Business Review showed companies that practice conscious capitalism perform 10 times better than their peers. Remember, think big, but start small. Second takeaway, financial roadmap. In my startup mentoring experience, I realized that many founders ignore the importance of financial roadmaps. P&L projection is like a compass in the day and the light in the night, if you know how to use it. No, you don't need a degree or an MBA to do this right. In a serious recession like right now, this planning is extremely important. I would suggest that to create 3 versions: optimistic, pessimistic, and realistic. With this, you can tell if the business makes sense, financial sense, and if not, how can you innovate to make it right before you start? Definitely do some market surveys to understand your competitions and the challenges that they are facing right now to get more accurate projections. If it really doesn't make sense, change the plan or do it later. Spend more time here and get a few mentors to run through the draft. Make your business lean, okay? Outsource, reduce costs, smart spending. For example, we outsource accounting and IT for $200 to $500 per month at the beginning, and also to avoid paying for hotel, I actually took an overnight train to KL on a business trip. Now, training talent is cheaper than hiring experience. So think about what roles you could train or what role you have to hire. Now, pay yourself. It is very important that you see yourself as an employee to the business. It gives clear performance measurement. If you can't do a good job, hire someone better than someone better for your role. Okay, at least there is a higher chance to see profit. If the company can't afford to pay owner salary, at least put it down. Put the salary down on the cost on the paper to pay later. This will provide more accurate financial analysis and financial modeling when you are trying to scale. It also reduces partner dispute because salaries and incentive of owners are based on performance. And third takeaway, if cash is blood, then digital tools are the arteries that today's business owner cannot live without. So besides mastering your standard social media search engine and analytics to improve your marketing result, there are powerful backend tools. Like some of them can schedule and manage your campaigns across more than 30 platforms on one single dashboard. It can identify influencer and leads for your sales team, and even chatbot for customer service. I believe that the days of cold callings are over. I love selling, but I was hit by an awakening about 2 years ago in a digital marketing growth hacking class that my sales superpower, especially my cold calling skills were obsolete. Similar psychological sales process, but digitalized and 100 times more efficient. I felt replaced by machines. So I'm determined to master this. In fact, my mentors in this space are 20 to 30 years younger than me. I'm looking for more mentors. We can barter trade, and I can teach you how to grow your business. You can teach me how to master digital tools. LinkedIn me. Now, as for scaled up, scale only from a solid foundation. Whatever works during the survivor stage may no longer be effective at the scaled up stage. Here's a MPP expansion framework my mentor taught me. Marketing, people, and process. MPP provides a robust framework of processes that go across all departments. Basically, anything that works should have a process, including like the process for collecting testimonial, performance measurement for all levels, even pre and post probation have different metrics, and also incentives that drive consistent core values. When the best practice is turned into a process, it can be multiplied. One of our awards, the Best In-House Training Awards, was the result of developing these processes. Second, focus on people first always, including letting go of people who are not aligned with this purpose or put effort to shift their paradigms. And management has to walk their talk. And third, align internal core values and brand pillars that truly deliver the ultimate customer experience. Very often, companies either have core value that sounds great and noble, but are missing the core internal drivers to shape the employee's behavior, or they do not impact the customer experience. This is ours. These 4 powerful core values and 3 brand pillars resulted in high-level employee engagements, a great impact on customer experience. But to execute core values effectively will take me a few days to explain. When the company's values are aligned with the employees, you get a committed and motivated workforce. Drawing from my experience, here are 3 hidden traits that I think are often overlooked. Empty your knowledge together with your ego. Knowledge blinds us from seeing opportunity. Never depends on your past successes and experience as your only winning formula. Regardless if it's a work, process, or an industry. Look at every opportunity and challenges as it is, naked and free from past influence. So use your strengths, but don't be used by them. When you upsize your ego, you downsize your brain. Ego rips off our opportunity to learn. 2 possibilities. 1, ego is so big that no one is good enough to teach us anything. 2, ego is so small that our needs to look good is above the need to learn. Sometimes it is that one stupid questions that we fail to ask that cost us $1 million deal, or the love of our life. It also prevents us from recognizing others' greatness and contributions. Successful entrepreneurs operate in this above the line behaviors: ownership, accountability, and responsibility. This means that you take 100% responsibility of all outcomes, including the employees whom you hire and stole from you, your partner, your business partner whom you entrusted to take charge of finance that mismanage and the cash flow and cause you to go into debt. Responsibility begins with a willingness to be the cause in the matter of one's life. It is not about taking the blame and right or wrong. It is simply taking a stand that you have a choice to be the cause in the matter and not the effect of it. This is a very powerful shift that I learned from Warner Ahad. When you fully shift to above the line for all things in your life, you will find the power to have better control of most outcomes. And get comfortable with the presence of fear. To overcome fear of failure, you got to embrace fear, make fear your friend in order to be one with it. These are two vital secrets that I learned from my old friend's fear. You can have fear and not be frightened by it. Think about it. Have fear and not be frightened by it. The fear of failure is driven from the need to look good. So, give up looking good and be one with fear. A new way to win is not about winning and success. It is about overcoming setbacks and specific challenges to break through the future we love. It is about overcoming our fears by becoming one with them. It is about embracing educations for living and not education for making a living. Imagine if you could, in every waking moment of your life, feel inspired by your purpose, feel alive and excited about what's next. And in this space of no fear, you pursue your passion, your dream. Tonight, I'd like to leave you with this thought. Imagine there is no fear, no failure. What possibility would you create for yourself? And where would you be 10 years from now? That's my success story. What's yours gonna be? The end.
Hey Karen, that's fantastic. Thank you. We've had a ton of questions coming through, which is really, really great. I think you deserve a cheers for that one. I'd like to cheers. I've got no wine left.
Thank you.
I picked up on a comment then there about give it.
For the questions, I just like to thank you. See some of the great graphics that's been created on my slides. They are done by Cheng the drawer, and really appreciate. He's my friend, and he just helped me to put some graphic to make it more interesting.
Beautiful. I noticed I picked up on one comment there that you made, which was give up looking good. I gave up looking good years ago, so I feel I'm ready to start being an entrepreneur right now.
Great.
Okay, so we've got loads of great questions, but I've got a couple for you myself, if that's all right. My first one, if somebody's already got a business idea and it's ready to go, how do they start? Like, what would you suggest are the first few steps? You know, the 1, 2, 3.
Okay, so so the order, the best order, I would say, number one is really do up your P&L, profit and loss, which means it has all your expenses, and then you have your projected revenue, the sales every month for the next 3 years. So you align by the month and you do it for 3 years, and you try and get it as accurate as possible. So why do you do that? Because as you are doing that as your first step, you start thinking about what kind of cost do I need? What kind of marketing should I do? What kind of partner fee should I pay? You know, sometimes you don't have them, but when you put it on paper, you start to see them, right? And also, this is a very important process because halfway through, you might realize, look, after 1 year, even if my business is doing well, this is actually not worth it. My salary is 500,000 a year. You know, I'm better off working for somebody, right? Or you look at the effort and it's like, it's not scalable, so it's no point. So this is very, very important. I mean, some people tell me, okay, it's a small business, you know, just me alone or just my partner, 2 of us, we don't need to do that. It's not true, because when you put it on the paper, you can see how far you could go. And when you have this, especially when you look at the realistic version, you get very inspired by what is possible because you know the numbers are real. So I find that profit and loss is something we should not miss. And then of course you do the rest, digital marketing and the rest, right? But the other thing is when you have your go-to-market plan means how you go to the market. How do you do your pricing, your competitions. So when you start thinking of a competition, you will think about, you will, start digging into the market and it's like, what is my competitor struggling right now? How much are they selling? So this will help you also to add into your numbers. But the important about go-to-market plan is having a performance metrics. You have to know, what are you going to measure by? So let's say if your 6 month is development, there's no sales. Then you have your developmental goal. So you got to measure that every weekly meeting, or I don't know, 2 weeks meeting or monthly meeting. You got to kind of check the goal, target against goal. So eventually, when you have sales number, you would have your P&L, right? You got your revenue and your expenses. So you got one column, January, target, and then versus achieved. So every month you look at this number. Where are you? So this is the performance metric that's very important when you set up your go-to-market. How are you going to measure yourself? Yeah.
Okay, so if I read that right, it's like tight financial control and making sure it's measured on a monthly basis are two of the fundamentals.
Yes.
Okay, great. And I guess this is another question specifically for me in terms of how do you stay positive and keep moving when something doesn't seem to be working? I mean, you talk about being one with fear. How do you become comfortable with fear?
Okay. To be honest, I find that I did a lot of extreme sports when I was younger. So skydiving, motocross. I find that when the more I'm in those fear or learning something new, like in a class with many people and I have to ask stupid questions, right? So the more I am exposed to this fear being with me, the more comfortable I can be. So I would say for parenting, I feel that I like my kid to be exposed to things like that, adventure, that there is a sense of adventure and fear. So they got used to it. And a lot of time we're not used to this feeling. So when you're used to it, see, fear can exist. It doesn't have to cripple you. But to be honest, there are times that I really felt overwhelmed by it. Could be that my cash flow is going so low. I may have to end up firing some staff or not able to pay salary. Like those moments are very real. So what I do is I do this releasing technique that I've used for the last 20 years. It's called the power of releasing by the two master. You can check out the website. And so in this technique, I just go into the root cause of my fear. So let's say my fear is fear of
dancing in public.
Huh?
Dancing in public.
Okay, my fear of dancing in public. So I say, I release my fear of dancing in public, and I believe that I will be great regardless. So you release that fear, whatever that is. You have to dig very hard, dig very deep, and then you put the affirmations on top of it. So I find that even I was doing this presentation, to fear is with me right now. Okay, so as I do this presentation, anxiety, and I was typing and I didn't have enough time, so I had to keep saying, I release my fear of my presentation not being good enough, and then I'll go release it and release. So every time I do that, it really helps me. So for my last 20 years, I would say this is a technique that is very useful for me.
That's great. That's really good. So I'll stop hogging the Q&A now. So we'll go to some of the questions from the participants. So the first one, can you tell us a little bit more about your first business?
My first business?
Yes.
I got two business. So my first business is an interior design business. Not a lot of people know about it. So so then I had this recruitment, so it's a total of two business. But my first business lasted only for about six months. I did it with a friend, and I decided to exit. So I was like half working and then part-time, half doing my interior design business. So basically, I just decided, okay, my partner was an amazing designer and artist. So we started the first business. And then he was the designer, I was the salesperson. And then so the interesting part about this is that we had no experience. We didn't know how to do, the drawing and stuff like that the clients want. So we just said, okay, we just said the universe will send us the best customer that's asked for nothing, no drawing, no nothing. And then indeed we had our first customer give us 40,000, and then we hit the Home and Deco magazine. So that was our first business. Not sure who is asking that.
Is it still around, or is it
No,
only less?
I left it for my business partner to continue. And I felt that I was a bit stressed out working and then interior design business at the same time.
Okay, great stuff. Okay, second question. What is this conscious capitalism about? Could you please give us an example of a business which fits with conscious capitalism?
Okay, so environment we understand, right? How, you know, when we're selling something, manufacturing something, if we can, I know sometimes it's hard because we need to keep the cost down. We do our best to make sure that the ingredients and the process does not destroy the environment, yeah, as best as we can. And then as far as for humanity, and you know, like in our the 10 principle of people first always. So one of the principle is we touch, move, and inspire everyone we meet. So that includes the candidate. Like sometimes when a candidate come to us, because we see so many candidates, and then it's very natural for consultant to like, you know what, you're not marketable if you don't do this. Like, so we're not inspiring them, or we don't have to lie, but say, hey, you want to kind of adjust this part because I think this might be good for your interview. You know, like just pay attention to that. And also for policies, company policies, if we want a culture where people are nurturing, you have to incentivize that. So, and then you want the group to work together, right? So example, one of our sales incentive was that every 2 months, we have this Twinkle Star. So whoever achieved the target will receive some great vouchers, they can go shopping, right? But the colleagues are allowed to pass to each other sales revenue. Say I'm short of 200, someone can pass it to me, and it's official. So this way, we create the support. Since you can't win this anyway, why don't I pass it to them? So then the salespeople is less competitive and say, hey, today you're gonna help me. Even I'm a selfish person and I receive the help, the next minute, the next month, you know, this selfish person will help you back. So from there, we create the culture, and it's a lot of detail to do that for humanity. But of course, conscious capitalism involve a much bigger scale as well on how we can also put part of our profit to charities to support the environment and the society. So there's so many ways, because I believe that leaders today can have so much power to the employees. And if leader play politics in a company, the same employees, old or young, is going to pick that up and go home and play the same politics with the spouse and the kids. So I believe that company can play a big role here internally, yeah.
Okay, great stuff. We've got questions flying in left, right, and centre. You could be here all night, but we'll try and finish exactly on 6. So on the point of training talent is cheaper than hiring experience, how much does training recruitment cost less than hiring experience based on your experience? So how do you find that balance between whether you train or whether you hire from a cost perspective?
Depend on role, okay? So let's say, in our experience, we were hiring a lot of consultants. Some of the roles that are big roles like directors level, headhunting, we do need experienced people, right? But what we did was we hired a junior, and we get the junior to do, let's say, sourcing. And then we train them how. And then the client facing is someone experienced. So example, so it doesn't, at least you have somebody to support it. Other methods, let's say you have marketing, your marketing role, and your product, you don't need so much strategies. As an owner, maybe you have an idea. Maybe you can hire a junior fresh grad with 1-2 year experience and do the marketing. And then you have to learn the marketing to lead that junior person, right? So something like that. So some stuff maybe you can take the role, or the senior person can cover. So you don't, silo each department, like, okay, you're marketing, you do everything marketing. So you have to kind of cross a bit. And then you've got mentors. So Asian Institute of Mentoring talks about mentor for corporates. How do you set up a good structured mentoring to allow the knowledge to be transferred to the next junior person? So, it depends on how you structure. It doesn't have to be just by department, senior, junior, whatever. So I think there's some time involvement needed when you hire inexperienced for sure.
Okay, that's a good answer. So one of the people in the webinar has actually done a bit of research. So he said, I read within your first year of operations, Scientech became one of the biggest suppliers to Wyeth, a huge MNC. And the question is, how stiff was the competition at the time? And I think the most important one is, how did you get a big multinational to actually trust you to become one of their main suppliers?
Okay, so that was a pharma company. So that was me alone, and so there was a lot of position, pharma manufacturing. I still remember that client very well. And so what we did was so I had to work on the positions and find new ways to troubleshoot why my candidate didn't work. And I don't know, I just figure out a way to really deliver the best experience, because that was my first or second customer, and it was very, very precious for me. I'll do anything. So when I say sleeping back in the office, mostly I was working on the assignment because I didn't know how to screen candidate fast enough, and I need to cold call in a day. So nighttime is my only time I can do database research, and then daytime I call the candidate, right? So that was a pharma client that grew to become the largest. So I remember I went to see the director. Usually I deal with the manager and saw the director, and then my card says sales manager. You know, company is small, I have no one to manage, so I shouldn't call myself CEO, right? So they didn't know I was the owner, and they're like, hey, you know, we need to discuss discount because your company is one of the largest supplier for us. So that was how I knew. Sorry, what was your second question?
Oh, the second question, how did you get a big MNC to trust you to become one of their main suppliers? I think it's basically talking about as a small business. How did you get them to trust you?
Okay, two methods. One is if they don't ask, I'll just tell them I specialized. I specialize in the pharma industry. I will get you the right candidate, blah, blah, blah. And then of course I talk about methodology, and especially difficult when I first entered the scientists, the biotech sector, because, you know, I really don't know much about it, but of course I work very hard to read up in every single scientist role, especially the roles given to us. So normally I would just tell them, this is where we specialize. But there are some clients who will dig in. What kind of experience do you have? And what background do you have? How do we know that you could deliver the job? So then I'll have to be honest to tell them that I don't have, but this is the methodology, and give me a chance. So my first two projects was like that. And also maybe I was lucky because at that time, nobody had the experience anyway, because we're the first mover for biotech in Asia for recruitment agency, right? So maybe it was easier. But yeah, there are different case, different scenario, but you just have to really go out there and deliver it. Sometimes it's not about your track record, it's your commitment that the clients wants to hear that you can deliver, and also being authentic about it. It's no point dropping names about so and so and what, and that was difficult. But I remember that very first time we had a senior position and I pitched for retain. This was a chief pathologist role, and it was in a meeting with 10 people. It was a huge meeting room, and after my retain proposal presentation, the CEO slide my brochures from his end to my end, and it's like, you can't do the job, you know. So, and then I was like, okay, so I tried this out of the body experience. This is Karen, this is client, where is the fight? And then from there I just say, of course, I understand why you said that because we've never done it. But hey, so I continue that. And eventually we managed to win the clients and we found them good candidates. Yeah.
No, that's great. And never discount looking. Looks a part of every successful entrepreneur, right? Okay, now time for another couple of questions and then we'll do the wrap up. So in a new startup economy and recruitment business development is obviously crucial, and as is signing up new clients. So in the current crisis where you're not actually able to meet anybody face to face, what would you suggest in terms of business, and what advice would you give to overcome these issues? Now, I know we have an upcoming webinar in the next few weeks, which is specifically about how to make heartfelt connections with people during the online world. So you don't need to cover it too much, but give us some quick advice.
I would say, because there's two parts. There's the cold calling. So even cold calling is difficult now, right? Because of the PDAPF. So I would say that use digital marketing to try and get your leads. And as for meeting and talking to clients, you could do it virtually, right? So that's not difficult. It's a question of whether they want to give you time. So that comes to the cold calling part. Why should they hire you? Why should they give their time to you? So you got to make sure your whole selling point about your company and how you're going to deliver. And then in a client presentation, then you try to have a Zoom call. You don't have to see face-to-face. There's no need to see anyone face-to-face. In fact, it's better because for the clients, they can schedule back-to-back and they can cancel without feeling too bad if they can't make it. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that question as well, they're not going to ask to come to your offices, and then you don't have to disclose to them how small you are unless they ask, right?
Yes, usually I don't.
Always look bigger than you are. Right, okay, last question, I think. What we might do, Karen, as well, is we might spend some time after this and answer the questions and send it out to people who've asked them, because there's still about another half a dozen. So the last one, any advice for a 19-year-old who's planning to start an e-commerce business for the first time? Like, how am I able to, I've lost my question. How am I able to apply what you've shared?
Okay, if you're 19, you're lucky, right? Because you grew up in the social media age, not like us, we had to learn from scratch. So I would say that if it's e-commerce, then of course, you know the whole tools for digital marketing. But you have to really look at your product. Is it something that the current market would buy in the next 2 years? Okay, because everyone is selling something online. What makes your product different? So even if you're selling same thing, so one way you compare price, which won't get you very far, right? Then the other ways is you compare your services. So I don't know what product is, but if you're thinking another big mall, that's very challenging. So you got to think about what else does the current mall, virtual mall does not have right now. You know, so the more is that when you go to like an Easy Buy or some of the big mall, you get a lot of rebates and discount, you get services. Some of the small mall may not give that. So, but if you're selling 1 or 2 items, you really need to look at what the item, I think more importantly is what does the market need now? I don't have much disposable income. Even if I have now, I'm trying to save, right? So that's what people are thinking. So you really need to sell something that people need right now and in the next 2 years to survive, if that's what you're thinking starting now.
I think we have a webinar, another webinar on what are the upcoming skills people are going to need post COVID-19 as well. So keep an eye out for those in your inbox. So I'm just going to wrap a few things up, guys. A few things to share with you, and also if I can get some, we can get some feedback from you as well. Oh look, Karen, that's you. You look very different without your cap on.
Yes.
Okay, so we need some feedback. So there's an online survey, which would be great. There's a QR code there that you can take a picture of. Given that we're having to do that everywhere we go, and I'm sure you guys know how to do it by now. And the second QR code is how can you help? So as you'll be aware, we have a mentor-mentee program, which has been running. There's a new intake due in August that we're filling up at the moment. So if you feel like you want to be a mentor or mentee, then you can go and register there. I'm always on the lookout for volunteers as well. So if you have some free time, you're not working, you'd like to learn things about how to set events and webinars up, then more than happy to have a chat to you. There's a space in the survey there for you to register your details. And also on soon next week, and I've just made my first gaffe for the day. It's simplifying processes and creating more value with lean, which is on the 20th of July. I got my screens mixed up there. So if you can attend that, that's great. You will no doubt get an EDM from our lovely marketing team to attend that session as well. And also would like to thank our partners. A number of great partners that we've got that really help us out. They publish our emails, they advertise our events. So we couldn't do it without their great help. And lastly, we'd like to thank you guys. We know that you're busy. We know that you're all chocked up with, especially with webinars and video conferences and Zoom sessions and personal Zoom sessions, because you can't necessarily see everybody you'd like to. So thank you very much for your time. It's greatly appreciated. There'll be a follow-up email, as I said earlier, with a link to a recording. So if you want to have a look through the session again, if there's anything you missed, and there'll also be an email address there, you can contact us if you've got anything that you need to share with us as well. So I'd like to finish off by thanking you, Karen. Thanks for all of your effort and great questions and answers there. And to everyone, we'll see you at the next webinar.